Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our regularly scheduled Haverford Township Board of Commissioners work session for Monday, December 2nd, 2024. Mr. Berman, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Gondek.
Present.
Commissioner Forresty Grupp.
Here.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Here.
Commissioner Cavender.
Here.
Commissioner Quinn.
Here.
Commissioner Hart.
Here.
Commissioner McCullum.
Here.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Here.
Commissioner Holmes.
Here.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Next item on our agenda tonight is Commissioner Committee reports. Do any of my colleagues have any reports from their committees they would like to share? Hearing none, I invite the chief to come up and give us his monthly police report. No, that's all right, chief. We were all hoping that you had nothing to say this month. You know what? I'm going to let you have that shot. That was really good. Nice job.
First thing I wanted, that's what I was writing myself a note for, the fire ban. Ours expires this week. In fact, today I think it expired, and the county's expires on 12/7, and they're not renewing it. So I would say effectively by the end of this week, the fire ban will be lifted. There's enough rain and predicted rain coming.
Sorry,
forward.
what's the difference between our ban and the county ban? Did the
Well,
county ban countywide?
Countywide, yes. We have the ability to invoke our own ban, but we usually follow the county. We invoked our own first, and the county did theirs a couple days later. But if they invoke one, we have to follow it. But we can do a separate one without their having one. So we did ours first.
Everybody in our town needs to not have fires until the county says so.
Well, the guy spoke to the county today. Theirs will expire on the 7th. So after that, fires are permitted again.
Okay.
All right. Unless something dramatic happens, and then we'll keep it. But it's wet enough out there now. So the chief's report for November 2024: criminal arrest 16, juvenile arrest 0, traffic citation 209, non-traffic 5, written warnings 36, parking tickets 436, burglary attempts 600 block of Lancaster. The victim realized that somebody had taken a cell phone from their apartment, and then found that it was a former employee that had fled the country. 2500 block of Haverford Road. Victim found damage to this attached garage door. Believes someone was trying to break in. No camera footage available. 2700 block of Haverford Road. Police responded to a burglary in progress. A male on a second-story roof trying to break in through the window. Police arrived and were able to take a male into custody. Crack cocaine and drug paraphernalia were found on the defendant. He was charged with attempted burglary and related offense. There has been contact with this individual in the past. Motor vehicle theft attempts. 418 East Township line, and you'll notice that most of these cars are all Hyundais or Kias. A Hyundai Elantra was stolen behind the business within the past hour, and the victim noticed a similar vehicle with a smashed window parked close by, and that vehicle was discovered to be stolen from Upper Darby, so they dropped one off and stole another one. 2300 block of Chestnut Avenue. Victim reports he heard his mother's 2012 Kia with the alarm sounding. He shut the alarm off, came out in the morning, found that somebody had tried to steal the vehicle by tampering with the steering column. 400 block of Devon Road, a Kia Forte window smashed. That steering column was damaged. The vehicle was not taken. 500 block of Kenmore, Kia Sportage was involved in a crash in Philadelphia. He found that his vehicle was stolen from out in front. The steering wheel column had been damaged. And I think I reported in the past with this type of vehicle, this make of vehicle, there's a hack on websites how to steal the vehicles. There is a fix for them. And what we have been finding is that some of these people who are trying to steal cars, they go in, they damage the dashboard, try and start the car. And once that hack is eliminated on that car, you can't steal the car. So there is a fix for it. It's just the people have to take the cars back and get that done. We get 5 attempts, thefts from vehicles. 1717 Westchester Pike, a purse was taken from a vehicle. 1700 block of powder mill. He had video around 4 a.m., two males taking items from his Lexus. They walked up the driveway, tried the door, the car was unlocked. 1700 block of powder mill, 1127, entered his unlocked 2023 Toyota, $3 taken. 1700 block of powder mill again, Toyota was broken into or entered. Eagle Tower Apartments resident reports interrupting 3 males wearing face coverings going through a Hyundai Tucson in the parking lot. We have good video of that, which I'll share on social media tomorrow, of the 3 males, and they walk down the parking lot trying each door. Wear hoodies, you can't see their face, but they try every door in that parking lot. It's a big parking lot behind the business, the apartments. Scooter thefts, which we're seeing more and more of these. The 700 block of Oakview and from the middle school. Canine usage, 1166. Maple Crest and Gladwin, assisting LMPD with the track of burglary suspects. That is the report.
Chief, and this is the time of year where don't mail the stuff, go mail it in the post office if you have checks in.
Yes, that has gotten better, Commissioner. I think if anybody has mailed a letter recently, you'll see the mailboxes have changed dramatically. You can't get inside of them, but we still recommend, and the post office recommends this also, that you mail at the post office inside. It's the season, so all mailboxes haven't been changed or repaired. So our suggestion is, and urging, is to drop everything at the post office
And
itself.
for the deliveries too to your home.
Well, that's the biggest problem we're seeing now. It seems that there's inside information. Cell phones are delivered to a front door, and 30 seconds or a minute later, somebody's at that front door stealing that cell phone. So where the information is coming from, we don't know. But we've had multiple, not just us, across the region, multiple cell phones taken. So deliveries, anything important that's valuable, when you order it, ask for a signature or have it mailed to a business or somewhere where somebody is home. Anything else?
Thanks, Chief.
You're welcome.
Okay, next item on our agenda is discussion items among the commissioners. The first item is Safe Streets for All study. As I understand, CH Planning will be here next week. Is that right?
That's correct. Last month's meeting, the board adopted the resolution that we presented for the Safe Streets for All study, and you approved the action plan. However, there were a number of questions, a couple of open items that the board wanted clarity on. You asked me to put that on the agenda for this evening as a discussion item in case you wanted to discuss it any further. And then, again, next week, CH Planning will be here.
Well, and Mr. Holmes is, I think one of the big things we discussed last month was also having it at the regular meeting next week, because there were several residents who expressed a desire to comment
Right.
in front of CH Planning. So I think the largest part, I mean, obviously we can, if anybody has stuff to talk about, it's worthwhile. But the largest part is just to make sure it's brought up tonight in an effort to tell anybody that wanted to have something shared with the planners here, that opportunity would be afforded next week.
Thanks. I appreciate that reminder, Commissioner McCluskey. That's right. And as I recall, I think people were under the misimpression, perhaps, that this was somehow limiting what we were doing, as opposed to just starting out with a couple test projects. But people have the opportunity to review. We have the plan up on the website. Folks will have a chance to review it and come here with any comments or questions that they can share.
If I could just ask briefly, if there is a resident who might have a comment or a question but is unable to attend the meeting next week, is there some way they can, someone they can send it into, or?
So the first thing, and I've done this, I think a number of us have done this. If a constituent writes to us, tells us, hey, I can't be at tonight's meeting, but I have the following to say about this topic, you could, the individual commissioners could do that. people haven't been shy in the past about writing directly to Mr. Berman with questions like that, and he can share them with all of us before the meeting. And or it could be read aloud depending on the constituent's wishes, or depending on the question, meaning it's possible the question could simply be answered ahead of time. So to the extent somebody wants a comment read aloud and attributed to them, that's easy to do. To the extent someone has a question that we can answer prior to the meeting, we should. And otherwise, that's how I suspect we would proceed.
Thank you for clarifying for, like you said, those in attendance and those that will be watching.
Yeah, certainly. Commissioner Forster, you're up.
Yes. One of the concerns that was voiced by some of our residents last week, and also a couple emails that I received, is concern about how this Safe Streets for All study will address how we can mitigate the problems along the state roads. Because if you're looking at their chart for where the dangerous accidents are happening, they're all along Westchester Pike, City Line Avenue, Darby and Eagle. And those are state roads, and they're very hard for us to mitigate. So I think residents would like to have some sort of overview of what steps we as a township can take to work with the state to address some of these concerns people have.
Well, I suspect if CH Planning is who they bragged to be when we hired them, that they will have some ideas for us and some experience and input on how to deal with properties and streets and folks who neighbor, who abut or otherwise live on state roads. Haverford Road would fit into that same category of frightening throughways. And so I know that my constituents and Commissioner Cavender's constituents care very much about that as well. So I will look forward to them, to their providing us answers to those questions next week. And if they don't know those answers tonight and are watching this meeting, they should learn between now and next Monday.
I would also add, on my way here, I was driving down Darby Road, and I actually saw someone walking along Darby Road underneath the wall that is right underneath the old Lanark School that has been converted to condos. But there's no sidewalk there, and the person is just walking along there, probably one of the most dangerous stretches along Darby Road. So also there's a large education component, I think, for our residents as well, that I would like to have addressed too.
And another thing that I see a lot that we need to talk to everybody about is, even though there's a sidewalk here, you see everybody walk in on the street. I see it a lot, and I'm like, well, what's the point? Why are you doing that? So we need to make sure that that's known too, because I think we've all almost hit some when we didn't, because they're in the street.
I'm not sure there's anything we can say that's going to change those people's minds, but I mean, I hope there is.
But I've just seen it a lot. And
all excellent points. So anything else we want to preview for next week or warn CH that we will be, seeking answers to? Hearing none, thank you all. Commissioner Gondik, I think you've got information for us on the Crossroads Figure Skating Club.
Yes. So Crossroads Figure Skating Club is a not-for-profit organization that is a member user at the stadium. They administer the skating club and the skate teams. It's a volunteer organization primarily composed of the parents of the various members. I think currently they have membership of approximately 50 skaters involved. The current leadership of that particular organization is getting to a point where their children are no longer participating; they've aged out, and they are going to kind of hang it up. The problem that the organization is having is that they don't seem to have a next generation of leadership that is willing to step up and take on those roles and responsibilities, which could result in the demise of the skate club. In conversation with the ice rink committee and with Ms. Cuthbertson and myself, we view that as a very large negative, and we want to try to take action to preserve this organization. It seems that the way to preserve this organization at the current moment is to in-house the group. The reason why this is kind of coming to the Board of Commissioners is because it's a little bit more complicated than it sounds. Because the Crossroads Figure Skating Club is an accredited club that competes at the competitive level, it is accredited by a national organization, and that national organization has certain rules and regulations that have to be followed, such as the existence of a board of directors, the existence of specific bylaws, and so on. And so what would wind up happening is for us to be able to in-house this, we would need to create a board of directors for this particular organization that at least some of the board of directors would be directly elected by the members, the participants in the group. I think that, and I don't want to misspeak, and Ms. Cuthbertson, if you want to comment, I believe that the thought process that we had thus far was something along this structure of what we have with the library, where this organization would have a small board of directors. A certain number of those board of directors would be would be elected by the membership, but then a certain percentage of those membership of the board of directors would be appointed by the Board of Commissioners. And I believe that the intent is for this organization to be under the immediate leadership of our director of skating over the stadium, who is himself a professional skater and competitor.
Correct. That was a very good summary. There's 3 required elements that we have to show U.S. figure skating to take over the sanctioned group so the skaters can continue to skate under a sanctioned group. And that is an established set of bylaws that can be very simple, but they do need to have some required elements that U.S. figure skating requires, such as a conflict resolution policy and a board of directors and a slate of officers. So right now, we have a draft set of bylaws with Mr. Walko for his review and Mr. Berman for his review to get some feedback on that. And then we hope to bring that to the full Board of Commissioners in January. Right now, the leadership of the current Crossroads Figure Skating Club has committed to seeing it through the end of the year, end of December. So we just want to be right there and be able to take over so there's no disruption to those skaters and their development.
And it's my understanding that by in-housing this, there'll be minimal additional burden on our own staff. Just because, again, this group has been operating out of the stadium for many, many years. Just the nature of the group itself, I don't think that this is going to be a heavy lift operationally.
No, it won't. It really will be the collection of memberships, fees, things like that. But as you mentioned, we do now have a professional skater on our staff as the skating director. He is part-time, but he's familiar with this and ready to take this on. So other than the collection of membership fees, developing a slate of benefits to that membership, whether it be, ice time that's restricted to members or off-ice training that's allowable to members, will develop that slate of benefits to being a part of Crossroads and build on what they have. But other than that, there should not be as much administrative load as we might imagine.
I would also just briefly add, we view this, the ice rink committee, myself view this as actually an opportunity to try to continue to grow and actually develop this particular organization, and hopefully, increase the membership in future years.
Absolutely, that is the goal, and how it starts is through our Learn to Skate program that is very popular in our township here, and those who choose to go on to a more formal or be more serious about figure skating, their next step would be to join Crossroads, where they are, made aware of the different competitions that they can enter, the different coaches that can help them develop their skills. So this is a natural progression, starting with our Learn to Skate program and moving into building the Crossroads group.
Any other questions or comments?
Are there any other youth sports groups that the township is involved with like this?
Not a formal club. We do run our own camps, as you know, and our leagues, things like that, but this would be different than what we're used to doing.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this? Thank you both for the explanation. Next on our agenda is to preview things we will be doing next week. As a reminder to everybody, we will be having a public hearing at 6:15 next Monday on ordinance P17. That is an amendment to our zoning section relating to definitions relating to buildings, structures, and lots, particularly accessory buildings and accessory structure regulations, and related to non-conforming uses, buildings, and structures. And I understand this is to this ordinance is to fix and modernize issues in our zoning ordinance relating to accessory uses and building structures and lots and non-conforming uses. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that?
I have just a brief question. I understand the purpose of the amendment, to clean up the language of our code to make it more clear and also to kind of modernize it a little bit. I agree with the basic purpose of the code is to have uniformity throughout the township, in accordance with, the desired setup of any particular, section. One of the things that concerns me is it does represent a departure from kind of the way that this township has handled certain types of things in the past, such as with sheds and fences. My question is, with regards to the township and its record keeping, does the township maintain a database or any kind of an easily referenced system to find out whether or not, structures on people's properties were placed there properly? If that makes sense. In other words, if I'm a prospective homeowner and I'm looking to buy a house in the first ward, and I want to make sure that the fence and the shed and all that are zoned proper or are proper, whether it be by variance or whatnot, is that information that is available to me?
So we do have software program that show that we track all of our permits, right? So we would be able to pull up a property file through that and know whether a permit was issued for a fence or a shed, which it should be. Other than that, we do not maintain records for nonconformities. So it's something that doesn't meet our current zoning and has been there for decades. We do not maintain that for uses. We do not maintain that for structures.
Okay.
But we determine that once, a project comes in for any kind of construction, addition, expansion, anything like that, then we can analyze it and tell whether it is an existing nonconformity. And then, like I said, the system that we have in place for tracking the permits, we also have been and will continue to try to build those property files with any of the variances that have occurred over time, to the extent feasible that we have that, available to us. So if it's from 1968, your guess is as good as mine if we have it. But we have some, and we have tried to add those to the property files when we can.
With regards to the permitting, how far back does the permit records go?
We have digital permit records back as far as, so for commercial, we have to keep them forever. So we have those permit the plans basically for any commercial property in perpetuity. We have those in a basement storage space. For residential, we are required to only keep it for up to 5 years. However, we probably have back to the early 2000s, in our database currently.
Okay.
20-ish years.
No, and I guess the only comment I would make is I would hope that with the changes that we're being asked to make here, that the record keeping system be reviewed, and that we keep these records for a longer period of time, because there's plenty of people who live in this township who have been here since before the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And I would hate for somebody to get caught up in having to go get a variance when they might not need one because of our record system.
Right. And those files, we do have every file for every variance. If that property owner can produce that, we can try to locate that as well. I feel pretty confident that we have all of the variance files. If they are digitized, I'm not confident on that. But we have the files for every zoning hearing board case that's ever been done
And how are they organized?
in boxes by
I
year.
I apologize. I meant in other words, in terms of searching. In other words, if I type in my house address,
By year, by the year that the case occurred, that the relief was granted.
but I apologize. If I type in my house address, 500 Shelbourne Road, will some system you have say there's a variance from 1999 and a variance from 2006, or do I need to have more information than that?
So yes, we do have that. We have that.
Thank you.
To what extent are these things noted and resolved at the time the property changes hands and a certificate of occupancy is issued?
If there's no change in use to the property, then it's not necessarily noted.
Like, for instance, I know if people inspect houses and they find, an illegal sump pump hookup where water's going directly into the sanitary line, that's something that gets flagged and has to get fixed. And I know people look into things like the valves in below grade, bathrooms or laundry rooms, things like
Water
that.
valves. Yep.
Well, if we inspect a property where the fence is obviously, not code, or a structure's been built or somewhere, is that part of an analysis of that house and
It's not something that comes up during the use and occupancy permit process. We would be able to say, well, that's a non-conforming structure, and until the time that they were to remove it and replace it, then it would become an issue that would be flagged on their permit when they come in for their new fence permit.
Again, the ordinance does not require anything to be removed just because it might be non-conforming. What the ordinance does do is if you have, for example, a non-conforming shed that's 3 feet from the property line and it now needs to be 5 feet from the property line, if you were to voluntarily take down that shed and then try to put it back up, you would have to put it to code 5 feet. But if you don't take it down, it would remain non-conforming, and would be unimpacted by this ordinance.
But just to clarify, it would really be voluntary and involuntary in the sense that if a tree branch came down and smashed your shed or your fence, I believe as it's written now, that you would not be able to
I'd have to look at that. I think it might just be.
when I looked at the red line version, it definitely had the voluntary language, but in the next paragraph, there was language about fire or other destruction.
So we didn't actually modify that at all. So damage or destruction, the section E, it does say in the event that a non-conforming use in any district is destroyed or partially destroyed by fire, explosion, etc., to the extent that 50% or more of the bulk of all buildings. So it actually has a qualifier of if more than 50% of that is been impacted, then the use shall terminate. In any,
So if a branch came down and like took out the whole shed, and the shed was 3 feet from the property line and didn't have a variance, that homeowner, before they could re-erect that shed, would need to get a variance. I mean, that's how I read it, and I want to make sure I'm reading it correctly.
Or move it 5 feet.
Or move it 5 feet.
Yeah.
If possible, yes.
yeah, exactly right.
Okay,
Yes, that's what it reads.
thank you.
Sure.
Does that answer all your questions, Mr. Gondik? I don't know if you asked this. If we're talking about whether something becomes non-conforming because we've changed the rules, what if something already? What if there's a shed built right to the property line? Does the township note those things in inspections?
No, not until the time when that structure gets, removed and is replaced. Then we apply our zoning ordinance, and we would say that nonconformity is now removed, and you must conform with this new structure to the zoning setbacks that are in place.
Right, to the extent that we're made aware of it. But if my shed that's a foot from the property line gets smashed on a Friday night in a thunder and lightning storm, and on Sunday I build a new one in its exact place, and all my neighbors like me, so nobody's mad at me and reports me to anyone, that's just no harm, no foul? Is that what happens?
There are all these what ifs, yes.
Oh, I mean, it's a big fantasy. Yeah, I mean, obviously. Pretty confident. But I prefer, I due to the ever watchful eyes of my neighbor, everything in my house is conforming, I can assure you. But so other than certain things that we look for in inspections, such as illegal sump pump hookups or the valve in the basement, things like that, that were very specifically, I guess, by ordinance, our inspections don't include any kind of generic overall, is this conforming, is that conforming, is that fence legit, nothing like that.
No.
All right, anybody else have any questions or comments on this? Hearing none, thank you. We will next week be doing a proclamation for our middle school football team. We will not spoil the surprise and read any of it now. We'll just do that next week. Next week, of course, is also our budget hearing, our second reading. Well, it's our final adoption of the budget for 2025. One of the things we do there is review any changes to the preliminary budget and then adopt the 4 ordinances that are associated with the adoption of our budget. Now is as good a time as any. If anybody had any changes on the board to the preliminary budget, you're certainly entitled to next week. But since the public speak at the beginning of the meeting, if there are changes of any significance, we should probably address them now. Has anybody made anybody aware of any changes to the budget, the preliminary budget we adopted? Does anyone like to raise one now and discuss it?
I was gonna just talk to you about it whenever you had the new version, but we had talked about adding to the Parks and Rec budget a little bit of capital funding for a grant match for Elwell Field. Is that able to be added?
Yes, I do remember that conversation, and I do have it as a list of proposed amendments for the board to review at their meeting next week.
Thank you.
Do we have other proposed amendments for us to review?
We do. As always, each year, if you'll recall that when we prepare the preliminary budget, that is using actuals through the end of September, because due to the timing of when we have to present. So we continue to look at revenues as they come in. So we've looked at October and November. We do think we're going to be able to amend the proposed tax increase slightly. If you recall, it's at 3.9% right now. So we'll fine tune that before the meeting next week. And
Meaning you have found we may be making adjustments to our revenue numbers for 2024.
we're seeing them come in more. I'm sorry to cut you off. I was just going to say we're seeing a couple revenue line items come in a little bit stronger than we had thought they may, again, using numbers at the end of September. So with that in mind, we feel comfortable projecting a little higher for 2025 for a few revenue line items.
Are there any additional expenditures that are going to be before us, other than the consideration of Parks and Rec? Was that what you said?
No, truly, it's all revenue based, with the exception of one of the other adjustments is we did get our final premium for workers' comp, which was lower than our budget, lower than what we projected for 2025. That's going to reduce expenditures, actually.
Terrific.
We have a couple revenues going up and we have a couple expenditures going down, and hopefully that's going to translate into bringing the 3.9 down slightly.
Terrific. Thank you, Ms. Cuthbertson. Anybody else have any questions or comments on the budget for next week? Hearing none, we'll also be considering for the second reading our stormwater management ordinance, as well as a second reading of our traffic ordinance. We have a number of resolutions to consider next week. The first such resolution is the Quadrangle Art Studio Addition Land Development Plan. I know that representatives of the Quadrangle are here today. And while this is not an official session where we'll be doing any voting, we certainly are invite their comments now about this project and warn you about the questions that then will come. So, Mr. Brosman, would you like?
Hi, good evening. George Brosman back again for the Quadrangle. Mimi Winkler, the architect, is here, and Dave Sanders from the engineer's office. When we were here in November, we were mainly talking about the issue that had arisen regarding the need for sidewalk and curbing waivers. I had pointed out the issues with the extensive frontage and how it related to the minor project. I believe it was Commissioner Hart that asked us to look at a smaller area, in particular the area from the driveway to the Quadrangle on Darby down to the intersection of Parkview Drive, which goes into Haverford Reserve. We went out to the site the very next day, really focused in on that area. And Mimi can show you some slides of that area if you wish. I know this is only a workshop, but we have a flash drive. And then we returned to the Planning Commission a couple days later. The Planning Commission had previously recommended approval of the project, but the sidewalk issue hadn't come up then. So we returned there, told them what had happened. We focused in on the area in question with them, although we did give them the broad overview. They recommended approval of the waiver. We proposed adding a connection, a short pedestrian path connection from the Quadrangle to a little segment of sidewalk that had been installed at Darby and Parkview. And if that sidewalk connection is added, then residents of the Quadrangle can walk on the new sidewalk, get themselves onto the sidewalk that's already there, the small segment. They can use the existing crosswalks that are at that intersection to go in the various directions, and most particularly, they can go right across Parkview and then beyond the path system that's there. This would be a supplement to other path connections that are already exist at the Quadrangle, but this would be a more direct route to that intersection. The Planning Commission had also asked us to take a look at adding a similar path connection at the that would go out to the intersection of College and Darby. We did look at that as well, and there were physical impediments to that, but more importantly, when we looked at it again, and I don't think the Planning Commission was aware of this at the time, but the intersection of Darby and College is specifically signed with no pedestrian crossing signs. So in addition to the physical impediments, we didn't think it was a good idea to add a little path to encourage people to go where there are signs that say they should not as far as a crossing. So we really appreciate the township working with us. We feel that this connection is a reasonable one to do. It's a good planning idea that the township gave to us, and we think it is reasonable in relation to the scope of the art studio project. I'm sure the township would have liked to seen something more extensive, but we think it will work. It's a good thing, and we think it's reasonable, and we hope that you could support us when we come next week. As I said, we do have those slides we could show you, and or we could present them next week as well.
Is this what you recognize as the
Yes.
proposed plan?
Yes, and we proposed a condition of approval that would relate to the partial waiver for sidewalks that would require that be, the final design be worked out with the township and the township engineer, and that it would be required to be done. So that would be a requirement of the waiver if it were to be granted.
And no issue for the quadrangle with giving up a parking space. They don't, they're not close on their parking issues.
They have a lot of extra parking. In fact, that area, there's a slide that Mimi has. They're using, those parking spots are already just being used for temporary storage, so they're not really
So
needed.
it's parking for pod. Yeah. Excellent.
Would it be
right.
possible to see the slides?
Here, I'm setting them down.
No, if you have the flash drive, why don't we?
Is there a computer though?
Oh, okay. If not, then it's fine.
Well, have them next week.
Okay, we'll have
Yeah,
them.
and the
I would like to see the physical impediments to the sidewalk.
And we also did email them, so I don't know if the staff emails them out to you ahead of time, but we will certainly bring them next week as well.
So I don't think we have the picture of the pods, but obviously they're there because that's not parking spaces that are normally occupied there by cars. We do, fellow commissioners, have at least Exhibit A to the resolution that shows the rendering of the sidewalk, of the walkway from the existing parking lot to the existing sidewalk on Parkview. But next week, to the extent you have other visual aids,
Right.
we'll be prepared for that.
And we do have slides, Commissioner Gondek, that show, we had slides before of the greater area, but we really focused in on the area in question. And you will see, and Mimi will go over with you, there was quite a lot of impediments there, as well as limitations on space.
And I just wasn't, what, the side path, is that going to be macadam? Is there a plan for what?
I think it's proposed to be macadam, is that right, Mimi? But
Yes, and I think we're going to work with the
Township engineer, okay.
Right.
It just, yeah, I couldn't tell from your, yeah, I just,
Macadam looks a little more like a natural path than
Right.
concrete, but
yeah, thank you. I mean, I think it's a big benefit. I mean, I've also been told that some of the employees of the quadrangle had been walking on College Avenue to get down to the train station. So by using this side path, they can get off of College Avenue and run parallel to it. So it's a benefit for them as well.
yeah, we think it was a good idea by the more than one of you who recommended it.
Thank you.
Sorry, any other questions or comments? Anything else you'd like to add for now?
No, thanks for having us, and we'll I guess we'll come back next
See you next
Monday.
week. Yep.
Thank you. Good night.
The other resolutions for our consideration, 1, 2, 3, 4, 11 of them. An LSA grant application for plate readers, LSA grant application for police vehicles and equipment, ARPA continued restoration along Darby Creek, ARPA final obligations, ARPA park and recreation projects, ARPA comprehensive plan implementation, an LSA grant grant application for a pickup truck for Manoa Fire Company, an LSA grant application for Cobbs Creek Stream Bank restoration, an LSA grant application for pedestrian activated crossing at Manoa and Woodland, a resolution establishing our 2025 public meeting schedule, and finally a resolution for the use of ARPA funds for traffic signal upgrades at Darby and Manoa. We will also be considering.
Ask maybe some questions on some of these? Or?
Yeah, please, go right ahead.
Okay. Chief, on the plate readers, I imagine these are going on the main roads.
The main intersections in the township, that's correct.
Okay.
And this is used by surrounding towns too, right?
I'm sorry?
And this is used by surrounding towns too, right?
Every township in the whole area has them. We're the only one. The township does not have them yet.
And Chief, if I could just ask, because I did get an email from a constituent about the plate readers. Could you just take a moment and just explain exactly the purpose and what they're used for?
Well, basically, they're used to fight crime. Well, that's the main purpose of them. Obviously.
Everything's used to fight crime.
Every car that goes through the intersection, their plate is captured. The only time we go back to look at that, if we have a crime, we could put the plate number or the make of car into the system, and it will come up and track where that car is, depending on which camera is picked up in what part of the county or other counties. So many crimes are solved with it. Crimes in progress are solved because of that. It's a very valuable law enforcement tool at this time.
But it was plate readers that helped us capture that person who shot at somebody on Westchester Pike, right?
Correct, Commissioner, yes. We've had them on our vehicles for at least 8 years, 2 vehicles, that is. And as the police car drives up and down the street, it reads every plate it passes. And if it's a wanted car or an alert comes up on it, it flashes on into the vehicle on the computer. So we've been using them for a number of years. It's just more advanced technology now.
And of course, this is a grant application, so this is not at this point the expenditure of any township money on this. This is to authorize the township to apply for this grant, right? Do I have that correct?
Actually, just to clarify, Chief did request this in the capital budget, so we do have it in the capital budget using funds on hand. So if we're fortunate enough to get this grant, then those monies can be earmarked for something else.
Terrific. We have a high degree of confidence we'll get this grant.
I'll ask one of the commissioners, what do you think?
We're going to do our best.
I have no idea.
I think we're going to get it.
Well, we put 2 grant applications in. One of them is for 2 vehicles to upgrade our fleet, and the other one's for the cameras. They are expensive. We felt that instead of using township funds, we can get this grant. Obviously, as Amy said, that money can be used on something else.
It's worth applying. That's the answer.
Sure, more than that. All right, well, that goes into the second resolution, which is the 2 police vehicles and related equipment, obviously. Also something that has been budgeted, but something we hope to accomplish with grant money.
We have 4 vehicles in the budget for next year. We are behind on police vehicles. Our mechanics have been doing a yeoman's job keeping them operating. Most of our vehicles have well over 100,000 miles on them. We're recycling cars into K9 and special ops, so we have to start upgrading the fleet. We have the electric cars, but as you know, they're limited to how many hours we can use them for. So that was in addition to the fleet, the electric vehicles. So with the 4 vehicles, if we can get 2 more, that would take the burden off the taxpayers and upgrade our fleet.
Thanks, John.
I also have a question about the stream bank restoration. Is there a matching town grant if we township?
This is not a matching grant program. We could put forth a match if we have to. The maximum amount available is $1 million in
Okay,
any of these grants.
but we could get $1 million without having to match it.
That's correct.
And which area, is this along Carricong Drive, that area?
It's Carricong, yeah, it's along Carricong Drive.
Okay. Yeah, if something needs to be done, or Carricong Drive's gonna be in the creek, so.
Thank you.
Dave, quick question. You said along Carricong Drive. Isn't that the Cobbs Creek watershed? This says Darby Creek.
No, there's one down here, Hobbs Creek.
Okay. What, could you elaborate a little bit on what's going to go on with the Darby Creek one?
This is the area of, it's along Darby Creek where we're already doing a bunch of restoration. This is additional removal of wooded material, cleaning it up, and then we'll be able to plant appropriate seed for, new
Thank you.
growth.
Any other questions or comments on the resolutions we'll be considering next week? Hearing none. We will also be considering two different sets of stipulations and agreements, 5 tax assessment stipulations and 1 business privilege and mercantile tax settlement agreement. Those have been discussed. The details of those have been discussed in executive session. Oh, which, by the way, before the start of this meeting, ladies and gentlemen, we had an executive session to talk about matters of litigation and tax assessment stipulations before this meeting at 6:30 today. So that'll be on our agenda next week. After that, we have a number of contracts and purchases for next week. Payroll and employee benefits, a Paycheck Flex enterprise system, and a flexible spending account offering through Benefit Resources LLC. Amy, want to give us a quick heads up on that?
Sure. Our HR director, Lori Chase, has been investigating a few different systems to integrate. Right now, we do time and attendance on one system. We do payroll on another system. So she did some research to find a system that, as I said, could integrate in goals of efficiency. And she was able to find something, a Paychex product that will not only be more efficient, but it will save us money. So that is her proposal, and that's what's before you for next week.
Excellent. Also, we have library change orders for the general contractor as well as the HVAC contractor. Let's get a quick description of that.
Hello, good evening. This is pretty straightforward. It's actually it's a zero cost change order to the township. We have to pay the mechanical contractor to do some work because the general contractor essentially didn't get things done when they needed to. So we're paying the Dolan Mechanical, and then we're back charging Rycon. So it's a net zero change.
Great. We love those.
Try to come back with more.
Yeah. And the library loose furniture, that is exactly within the budget, the COFCO 408-038-45.
Yeah, so this is the second part, as we were here last month for all the library shelving. So this is all the loose furniture that spent a lot of time going through. And then there is an overrun, as we spoke about, but the library is paying that directly. So we are within budget.
The overrun is in addition to the 408,000?
Correct. This 408,000 plus what was approved last month fits within the roughly $1.2 million furniture budget.
But the library is paying, that, I was a little unclear what the library is paying.
So the total furniture package is about $200,000 over the project budget.
Okay.
And so the library took the time to go through it, and they felt it was important enough not to try and cut a bunch of things out for this long term. So their board approved spending up to $250,000.
Okay.
Above and beyond that. So we're not affecting this budget at all.
Thank you.
With the chargebacks on the general contractor, those have been, like, the general contractors agreed to, there's no dispute on those?
So far, no, but that doesn't mean that they will refuse to, but I mean, it's pretty clear cut in our opinion, so we're hopeful it's not an issue.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
We also have a contract for McDonald Field supplemental lighting with NGU Sports Lighting. Brian, want to give us a quick?
Yes, we had taken down some field lighting when we put the initial Darby Creek extension on McDonald Field. So we're replacing them on one side and we're supplementing them on the other side with the new lights that we're putting in. We're adding some lights that won't be for the baseball field, they'll be for what's the soccer/football practice field. Because the lighting that was there previously was not satisfactory. Typically, you would have parents in the parking lot with their headlights flashing towards the field to provide more light. So this will enhance that lighting that was there before we took the lighting down to put the trail in on McDonald Field.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments about that? Brookline Park, a number of things we'll be doing there. Tree planting, protection, and maintenance with Archwild. Fencing with Miller Sports, and preschool playground equipment with Recreation Resource. Brian, give me a quick heads up on that.
Yeah, we put a plan together to install 40 trees and some additional play equipment with reimagination stations, and then we also have the fencing that will go in once the stormwater management and the final grading is complete.
Great, thank you. Also, replacement equipment from Recreation Resources as well. Where is that going to be?
That's for various locations. We have a few spots that we're considering. We're waiting for final inspections this fall to make the final determinations on which pieces will need to be replaced.
Great. And the large replacement slide, where's that going?
Still evaluating with our inspections this fall.
Where to put it or whether we need it?
Well, no, we definitely need it. We may be taking out moldable slides. We're just not sure at which locations yet. We have to do a final inspection.
Great. Darby Creek Trail streambank restoration. This is complimentary contract to the resolution for the LSA grant application. The ADA traffic signal improvements to Darby and Manoa to Charles Higgins and Sons. That is through the use of ARPA funds. And then Dave, we have two things to be determined: an emergency sewer repair contract and a comp plan implementation zoning ordinance rewrite.
That's correct. The emergency sewer repair project is an ongoing regular contract. So we we get bids for a unit price that we then apply over the course of a period of years for any emergency sewer repair projects that come up. And the zoning rewrite would be complementary to the completion of the comprehensive plan. And we'd like to award that contract this year and utilize ARPA funds to do that. So the comp plan will be before the board in the coming, I would say, weeks, months, shortly.
Adoption for February is our goal
For
right now.
adoption.
Yeah.
So that'll be back before the board very soon. It'll be published on the website like always. And then this contract would kick in for the implementation of that plan through a rewrite of our zoning ordinance.
Terrific. Thank you.
So just so I'm clear, so once the comprehensive plan is adopted, we'll go into the zoning ordinance rewrite. So we're outsourcing that. So the spending that you're talking about here is to outsource to a company to do the actual rewriting?
That is correct. We prepared a request for proposals and we received 3 proposals. And we have a small committee that's been established to review those proposals and recommend award to the Board of Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is all the items on our agenda. Does any commissioner have anything else they care to raise this evening? on any of the topics we've discussed, or something else they think we should be aware of before next week? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're adjourned.